One day, my bright, motivated student wouldn't do algebra. I assumed it was just too hard for him. It's hard for a lot of students, right? That assumption led me to think I needed to review algebra so I could provide the help he needed. But I was wrong. There are 5 hidden reasons bright kids stop trying. And if we respond to these reasons, we can get our kids learning again. Reason number 1 that our bright kids have stopped trying is it doesn't align with their goals. It aligns with our goals, but not necessarily with theirs. I think that was the case with my son and algebra. I wanted him to complete algebra because it was just what you do when you are a 9th grade student. But for him, there was no good reason for him to apply himself to algebra. He probably wasn't enjoying it. And nothing seemed to get him moving until he found out that kids who he was on sports teams with and were a year behind him were already doing algebra at their private school they attended. There was no way he wanted to let himself get behind. And so all of a sudden, he was all about getting his algebra done. And he actually found that he enjoyed it. If that is a reason your bright student has stopped trying, you will either want to change the curriculum, you will want to study a different subject, or I think most importantly, you want to find a way to connect the material you want your student to learn with your student's goals. Many years ago, I read a book that was very influential for me as a homeschooling mom called A Thomas Jefferson Education. And the thing that I remember most about that book is that we could inspire our kids to study something not by handing them a book or even putting them in a class, but taking them to see people who were already doing something that they might be interested in doing themselves at a very high level. So, for example, taking your student to spend a day with someone who is a successful business person could inspire them to study math because it is connected to business success. That is just one example of how a misalignment with your student's goals can be corrected to help your smart student start trying once again. The second reason that some smart students stop trying is because we are giving them busy work. The work really isn't the best way to teach a concept, or it's just too long. The exercises are not necessary in order for our students to learn. Sometimes we give our students exercises, practice workbooks, simply because this is what we used to learn, but it isn't necessarily the best way for our student to learn and especially enjoy the process of learning. A good example of this is having a student write out definitions of vocabulary words. In my research of what determines a student's vocabulary, which is very, very important, by the way, it was never writing out definitions. It was not memorizing definitions of vocabulary words. Instead, it was exposure to high-level vocabulary. And that is why I take the approach that I do in Grammar Galaxy of simply exposing students to high-level vocabulary words that they won't necessarily come across in their 2nd grade studies, their 4th grade studies. But then I ask them to use the words in sentences. I've heard from many families who are using Grammar Galaxy that kids then identify their vocabulary words in other contexts. They say, "Hey, Mom, that's our vocabulary word from Grammar Galaxy." If you would like to grab a free sample of Grammar Galaxy, I'm going to put the link for that in the show notes. If what you are doing is the equivalent of busy work with your student, one idea I have for you is to have your smart child research what does improve that particular skill if the busy work doesn't, and have them do that instead. Hidden reason number 3 that your bright student has stopped trying is because it doesn't challenge them. Bright students in particular need to have a little uncertainty about their ability to accomplish something in order to be motivated. After my son started studying algebra, he came up with a challenge of his own. He wanted to be an AP scholar and pass multiple AP exams in order to have that designation. I had a girl who was using Grammar Galaxy who set a goal for herself of completing all 5 of the elementary levels of Grammar Galaxy in 1 year. She did that, and I was thrilled to send her a Grammar Galaxy book bag as recognition of her accomplishment. Read about what kids your child's age are doing as major challenges and what kids who have your child's interests are accomplishing. So it could be running a profitable online business, getting a pilot's license at a young age, taking community college courses early, and suggest these as possibilities for your student, but maintain a little bit of healthy skepticism. And this might encourage your student to want to try to prove you wrong, that they can meet and exceed possibly these goals. Reason number 4 that your bright student has stopped trying is because they're constantly being corrected. This is a practice that is most common when evaluating writing. In fact, I was guilty of that. I was giving my students lots of editing marks in their writing, and that is demoralizing. It's demoralizing for anyone to get lots and lots of corrections and try harders and do betters in the feedback that they're getting. That is why I have included very little of this with respect to parent-teacher evaluation of kids' writing in Grammar Galaxy. This can happen with math as well. If we repeatedly point out calculation errors or mention that the work isn't quite up to par with what they're capable of, instead, what we want to do, if we want to maintain our students' motivation, is we want to focus on the content of what they're writing. We want to focus on what they are doing well, what they are getting correct. And we can suggest, if we suspect that they aren't doing as well as they could, we can suggest that when they've matured, they will do even better. Number 5, that your bright student may have stopped trying is because they have exhausted their self-control. Kids who are overscheduled with lots and lots of activities away from home and many, many things that they have to accomplish when they are home, kids who have to follow many rules in your home, or kids who just have too much work may quit just like we will because their self-control has been exhausted. Self-control can be seen like muscle strength, and we have to use it to do lots and lots of activities, to follow rules, to do work when we don't feel like doing that. And after a while, our muscle strength will just give out. To counteract this, we want to give our kids more control over their schedules. They can determine when they're going to get their math done, when they're going to do their writing assignment. And this sets them up for more control that they're going to have to exercise once they are in college or out of our homes in a workplace. We also want to give kids fewer rules. So we want to focus on those that are essential so our kids don't have to use self-control unnecessarily to follow rules that just aren't that important. We also want to make sure that our kids have adequate downtime. And we want to do that for ourselves too. Without that downtime, without that time to rest and relax and do the kinds of activities that recharge us, and our students have that time to recharge themselves, they're going to have a tough time doing the algebra work, writing the essay, or practicing the piano when they just don't feel like it. If you would like more help with this, I encourage you to grab a free lesson from Training Aliens, my story-based social and emotional skills curriculum. You can find the link to it in the show notes. My bright boy studied advanced math in college after getting going on algebra, and he kept studying it until it didn't align with his goals anymore. He is now taking up the challenge of working abroad. When we identify the hidden reasons our bright kids stop trying, we allow them to rediscover motivation. You can request free samples of Grammar Galaxy as well as Training Aliens for your bright kids in the show notes. Comment if you have other questions about motivating advanced learners.